going up to a lookout up here. I don't know exactly how far it is. Obviously, I've never been out this trail. I absolutely love this trail. You can see here a little drone footage from up at the lookout that we went up to. This is a different drone than I normally fly, so I didn't have super great control of it unless it was just chasing me. But it does give you a sense of kind of where we're going to get up to. We are in Wyoming, and it was just absolutely beautiful. The other thing that was really interesting about this particular trail is I started the thing right down kind of at the trailhead by the dirt road. And by the time you get up to the top, you've climbed over 3,000 feet. Now, it doesn't really look like it here because the camera doesn't ever show any of the actual angles. But in just a minute here, you're going to see how steep the trail gets, and it's just going to be going straight up the mountain. And that was something that we joked around a bit because none of the three of us that were riding here, two of the three of us had never ridden anything at all in Wyoming. And one of the guys, Tyler, had ridden just a little bit in Wyoming in October, but he kind of got like snowed out. And so what we noticed was that it was like, dang, the guys here that are doing the Wyoming riding, they just go straight up the trails, like literally straight up. So starting somewhere in this area, it starts to get a little bit steeper. And then next thing you know, instead of doing any switchbacks, we were just going straight up the freaking mountain. And I didn't know it was going to be like this. So you kind of just like start to go, and it levels off a little bit right here. And then next thing you know, you're just going straight up the freaking ridge. And we laugh because it was like the dudes who made these trails and the dudes who are riding these trails, they are legit. It doesn't do it justice here just looking at the way this looks. And this wasn't like a super difficult trail, but ends up just getting so steep and you're just going straight at the mountain. And there were so many other places on other videos that you'll see coming out later that it was just like straight up something, and then straight up switch back, and lots of roots and trees. And it was there were times where you just had to, like, you come around kind of a little bit of a blind corner, and there's this huge massive log that you just have to jump over because you're going on such a steep hill, and you can't let off the gas. This, I think, if I remember right, I haven't even watched this back, I think this is where it starts to get just really quite steep, if I remember. And then the other thing too is coming down this, it actually got you tired coming down. What I won't show on this video is the actual push up, the switchbacks up to the actual lookout peak. I'll put that on a separate video. Because that is kind of like an ordeal in and of itself. I don't know how much of that I have recorded. Hopefully I've got most of that recorded going up. But right here, then you just like, oh man, we are literally just going straight up this thing. There's no switchbacking. We're just going to follow this ridge and go right up the gut. And obviously the trail is a little bit loose and you're just winding. So you don't even have a chance to like get on the gas and just like carry speed, because you're just weaving up the trail, weaving around these trees, and it gets steeper and steeper and steeper. And then right here you've got this massive, kind of super almost cliff off to the right hand side, and you're dodging trees and you're dodging roots, and it progressively got steeper and steeper and steeper. And right here it's bloody steep, and you're just like, holy crap, I can't get any traction, I can't get any momentum, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just got to gut the bike up. So you could probably hear me switching between first and second gear there a couple times. I don't like this. One of the problems with the XC-W, I've never liked, I shouldn't say never, I've not liked the low first gear on the XC-Ws. I want the RPMs to be I want to be moving just a little bit faster and have the RPMs a little bit lower for most things. And second gear is a little bit too high some of the times, but I mean, honestly, you're just switching between first gear and second gear on something like that, and I like to keep the RPMs low. This bike, it's the 2020 300 XC-W TPI. It ran brilliantly this day and the next day, and it got a massive workout. There's one spot on the switchbacks, which will be coming on one of the following videos, where I'm just pushing the bike. I'm off the side of the bike because it's like you got like 8 inches of shale rock and just like boulder rocks, and I'm off the side of the bike just pushing the bike up the hill, spinning the tire at like 8,000 RPMs and just like, hey, the bike is either going to blow up or I'm going to die, but we're getting up this thing. And I mean, you're up over 10,000 feet at that point, so you're sucking air, you're sucking wind, and the bike is just, it's amazing how well these bikes ran up there, though. It's just absolutely stellar. In 2020, they have these things dialed pretty well in as far as the motor goes and the mapping goes. Yeah, there's some little things I don't like about the bike. Like, I don't like how there's no real great place to grab on the bike on the back, like on the rear fender, to pick the bike up and move around. I hate how the rear fender hooks in to the side panels. That you just break the little tabs and everything off there. It isn't perfect up on the place where you can bend your you can cut your radiator hose, because the radiators drop down. That makes the bike turn super tight, which I love, but it also means that you can cut your radiator hose especially on the left-hand side really, really easily. And you can bend the elbow on the radiator down. I don't really think you need radiator guards for any of these other purposes, but there might be some guards out there that could help you from bending that radiator elbow, that 90-degree elbow on the one side. So the bikes are not, and then obviously they don't have a kickstart, which I wish that they did. So there's these things, these little nitpick things that I can nitpick on, but overall I would not trade any of my other prior 300s prior years for this one. I just wouldn't trade them. Between the motor and the forks, this fork soaks up everything. It's the Explorer 48 fork. They changed the geometry of this bike so that it's more XC-like and it's more stable, but it also is plush and soaks everything up. And so for this type of riding, there is no better bike right now than this 300 XC-W. The 200 XC-W or 250 XC-W would also be very, very good. But for this type of riding, mountain riding up in the high mountains and, gutting up through rocks and trees and things like that, there is no better bike than this one. I do love my 250 XC, and if you make me choose between the 250 XC and this one, I probably take the 250 XC just because I've got so much desert riding that I end up doing in Utah, and the 250 XC can do all of this stuff, and it doesn't do this stuff quite as well as the 300 XC-W, but the 300 XC-W doesn't do the desert stuff quite as well. And so I would take the 250 XC if you're making me pick one bike. But I'll have to do a full roundup review on this bike, real style, because it is something to behold, and it's the best 300 XC-W that they have ever made, bar none. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but we are going right up there